My guest today has interviewed over 500 guests. He has built a personal brand from scratch and turned his mic into a movement. On this week's episode of the Human Capitalist Podcast, I sit down with one of the most honest voices in the talent space, Adam Posner. He is a founder, recruiter, podcast host, and someone with a personal story that you're going to want to listen to. We're going to get into some of the recent news stories and get into Adam's unique view on what's really going on in the market.
What I'm seeing now from a candidate perspective, and this is just raw, straight up truth, and people don't want to hear it. Companies have their pick of the litter right now. If you are not an ideal A+, super high quality candidate, there's no reason for a company to hire you.
We're going to help you with a raw look at purpose, branding, and personal resilience, even in today's market. Let's dig in. All right, welcome back to the Human Capitalist Podcast. I am your host, Trent, and I have got one of my favorite people and someone that makes me laugh, which is kind of hard to do, but I'm always laughing. Adam, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Trent, thank you for having me on. I love being on the other side of the microphone for a change.
It's kind of fun, isn't it? You know, doing both sides of it, it's kind of like I have to remember, am I the guest or am I the host? Like what persona do I need to play?
It's a very good point, because I've been doing this for a long time, and early on when I was a guest on shows, I would keep my podcasting host hat on, and I learned more how to be a good guest. And I think a lot of folks need to learn how to be a good guest, and also folks need to learn how to be a good host. And there's a balance there, and that comes from time and experience. It's muscle memory.
Yeah, you know, whenever I go on and, you know, there's always like a prep call that you do with someone. And I always ask them, tell me about your audience. What kind of topics do they like? And I had a host not too long ago, why are you asking all this? I said, because my job is to help your audience walk away with something and you look good in the process. So like, and I kind of see it as like, you're my client. So I need to understand what your needs are, and then I can tailor my narrative around it. So 100%. So
are you enjoying podcasting?
You know, it's funny. For probably 2 years, Joel included, it was like, you need to do a podcast. You need to do a podcast. I'm like, there's enough of you out there. I don't, you know, it's a very crowded space.
Oh yeah.
But I was trying to look for something. I said, okay, I want to push myself just a little bit. And the other thing too, and I know you have this a lot. I mean, we just had it before we jumped on. There's so many cool conversations that I have with people that I wanted someone to kind of look behind the curtain and see these are the conversations that are going on at X level about this topic. And I would do it and I would write, but sometimes I think it's really good for people just to kind of see the chemistry, the synergy. And, you know, I mean, if you say something that I disagree with, I'm going to push back, and I want there to be this healthy conversation, right? So the thing that I learned early on is, all right, this is a lot of work, but I am learning so much. So even if no one watches it, I'm talking to some really, really cool people.
You hit such an important note, and I say this all the time. I have literally built in the last 7 years a 500 episode masterclass for myself. I learned through osmosis. I used to read a lot more before I had kids. And now that I travel back on the road again, I bring books on the plane. I'm enjoying a book. I'm reading a book now called Blue Fishing, which is all about the art of making shit happen. A longtime fixer. Pretty cool, like this British dude.
Okay.
I'm like halfway through it. Like, it's a different approach than your traditional business books.
So is that where because I know we were on the HR Morning Show and you were talking about, you know, going into this year and really understanding the value of no. Is that where that's coming from?
Yeah, it's the value of saying no in the right way, and people respecting that and understanding that this is not a personal thing. This is, I am mindful of my time. Yeah. And I found in the last couple of years, you know, even going through my health battle and everything, that I've always been a kind of a people pleaser. I always want to say yes to things. And I'm also a big believer too in like saying yes to things because I want to see where the opportunity will go and unravel. But I need to bring that back a little bit and put my mind into energy into truly revenue generating opportunities for the business.
Yeah. And that, for me, I didn't read a book. I went through Agile training, so the technology methodology.
Yep.
And one of the things that stuck out with me is that if you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so it's one of the only ways that I think, in a very binary way, is, all right, if this is truly a priority and I need to work on it, and I do this personally and professionally, if this is truly a priority, what am I going to deprioritize? Because I only have so much,
Mm.
not just time, but people don't understand that focus is a very limited resource. That's why sometimes at 3 o'clock, it's like, I can't focus anymore. It's because you've blown through your focus for the day.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's chasing fires and being a yes to everyone. So yeah, early on, everybody was like, God, you're a jerk. I'm like, I protect my time, I protect my family, and I protect my money in that order.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that too. When it comes to podcasting, it was an exercise in building out programs, process, and efficiencies. With my show, I batch produce. Everyone's like, how have you put out a new show every single week? People who don't know, and it's no fault to them, they think I record an episode on Monday and it goes out on Friday. For me, that's not how it works. I'm usually
Right.
6 to 8 episodes ahead.
Right.
That gives me room to travel, to breathe, to live. For example, I'm recording next week, and I'm recording 2 shows next Friday. I haven't recorded a show since early December. We're recording the show on the 8th of January, just to give people a reference point here. But I'm 8 to 10 episodes ahead. And that only has come through 7 years of building that up and a process here. Something I want to kind of double back to that you said before early on. What I love most about what you're doing here, because it really showcases, especially in our HR and TA world, it really is a community. You see it at the events, you see it online when we're doing the podcasting, engaging each other's comments. When we're together, people, I wish they could see it. It is like a frat party, right? Like it is.
And sorority. We have a lot of diversity in there.
Sorry, it's a party. And
it's
I mean like
party.
not the right expression. It is just a reunion. I think it's a better word. I think it's a reunion, right? Always, every single time. And we support each other. Business, professionally. The amount of support I got from this community when I was going through my health journey in the past year was incredible, and it was genuine. And that's something I want to share. And I think coming on shows like yours really shows that collaboration, and not just with our own community too, but how we help job seekers and employees, that there really are good folks out there doing the good work the right way and putting to sleep a lot of these tropes and narratives. Listen, of course, there's bad apples in every bunch.
Yep.
And job seekers are frustrated, and employees are frustrated. But there's a lot of good people doing the good work out there, and we need to spread that word.
It's funny you brought up the community aspect in RecFest. So in my new job, I have to be very careful because I represent the brand, and I take that very seriously. And so when we were all meeting up that night before everything got kicked off in RecFest, one of my colleagues came with me, and I remember we were walking down Broadway, heading to where like Dino and who else was there? God, there were so many people there. It's all kind of running together. But I remember walking down Broadway, and I said, now look, you're going to have to sign an NDA. And she's like, what? I said, these people are my people. Like, this is the people that I can just be me. I'm not on, and they've known me for years. So there's probably stuff that they're going to say that does not need to get back to where
Not
we were.
PC.
Yes. I was like, and I kid you not, we not even 2 steps on the veranda, someone comes up and says something. I'm just like, and here we go, but that's why I love it though.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. And that's I love it. And I was off the road last year for about 8 months, and I was like, oh my God, like the FOMO was real.
Yeah, I bet.
The travel part wasn't real. No one loves sitting on airplanes, but once you get to where you're going, you're happy to be there. Whether it be Nashville, Vegas, Chicago, Miami, it doesn't matter. Like we're road warriors. That's what we do. We put ourselves out there.
And we're also each other's safe place. I don't think that's what, if someone were to look outside looking in, they're like, oh, they're a clique. And that's not it. To me, it's like whenever I hang out with all of you, I get recharged. So that way I can be on and be my best self and represent, the company and represent my brand at 100%. If I didn't have that time with you all, I think I would be running on empty.
And it goes back to what we were saying before. We all lift each other up.
True.
Right. And I truly believe, listen, there's a lot of folks, like technically speaking, we're competitors. We're both podcasters in this space. There's a lot of us. And I truly believe in collaboration over competition. I think there's plenty of eyeballs, plenty of ears, there's plenty of sponsors. There's plenty for us to all get around. And if we're all playing well in the sandbox, it shows everyone on the outside that we really are a tight unit. And it lifts up the entire industry. Rising tides certainly lift all ships in this case.
I totally agree. Well, you ready to get into some news?
Yes.
All right. So LinkedIn actually just posted something about a week ago. It said that top firms do not see hiring on the horizon in 2026. And I also saw something from, I think it was the Wall Street Journal that was doing some graphing of the job market in 2025, and they called it the job wall. And then we've also got, the topic of job hugging. I am looking at the data and I'm just like, all right, we're going to move from job hugging to job chaining very soon because there's so much instability.
Yep.
You're in there as a practitioner, you've kind of got a cool cross industry vantage point. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's important to open up the history book before we do any of this and understand that hiring is cyclical with the economy. But there was this big event, I can't believe we're saying this almost 6 years ago, called COVID, right? The pandemic. And that completely threw a wrench in the market. And there was a ton of hiring at a very high volume, and people were getting salaries at exorbitant over market rates.
Especially recruiting.
Especially because a lot of these companies were fueled by low interest PPP loans, right? They were funded by that, and there was binge hiring. And then what happened was a great recalibration where these loans were, due or whatever, and the economy changed, and these companies had to cut back for shareholders, for investors, for whatever it is, and it was a lot of purging. Right. And a lot of good people are out of work, and that's really where we are right now. And it's totally a supply and demand issue, right? I mean, we know exactly how that works. Lots of reduction in forces, lots of external factors. We talk a lot about, is AI taking my job? I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it's more of a headline versus true reality. Agreed. Like how many jobs are really being cut because of AI? And we're talking very broad stroke here, right? We're talking across everything, blue collar, white collar industries and everything. And, if I dial that down to my purview, last year was pretty flat for me from a hiring perspective. And let me just clarify to your audience, I recruit for marketing, media, and advertising roles. Okay. I work with ad agencies, marketing agencies, startups that have marketing functions, tech companies that have product roles, and everything in between that.
So you're actually kind of like, where your niche is, you're on the tip of the spear. So if you start picking up, the long tail means that things are going to kind of pick up on the operations, the support, and all of that. Would you agree?
Right. To some extent too, because you have to think that companies are still doing commercials, they're doing marketing, people have to build these things. Now you could also get into AI is taking a lot of those roles. That is true. They are taking a lot of roles in the creative space. So a lot of the big agencies, I mean, we just saw the acquisition between Omnicom and IPG from that perspective too. A lot of people lost their jobs in that perspective. We're talking thousands of people that are now flooded the market in the creative ad marketing space too. On the other side of it, the startups and a lot of the early mid-stage companies that I'm working with, they're still hiring because they're getting funding, right? And they need to build up. Funding has certainly the spout has certainly been closed off significantly in the last couple of years too. But once companies get funded, they need to hire. So there is still hiring going on. What I'm seeing now from a candidate perspective, and this is just raw, straight up truth, and people don't want to hear it. Companies have their pick of the litter right now. If you are not an ideal A+ super high quality candidate, there's no reason for a company to hire you. They want the best of the best because they can. And this is really tough because, Trent, I'm interested in your perspective. Let's be real here. Not everyone is great at their job. Not everyone has great job performance. It's just a law of averages and numbers here. And it really sucks because if you're not great at what you do in the past, you could get a job. It is incredibly tougher now, incrementally tougher, exponentially tougher.
And I agree with you, but also too, I think the definition of great employee is moving. So if we look at 2 or 3 years ago, let's just kind of look at kind of the back office side of it. Someone who could move pieces of paper through a process quick, they were great because their efficiency was determined by speed and quality. Well, now there is some automation that can take care of that. So what does a great employee in that role look like now? They need to have agency and orchestration. They need to understand, where does AI need to come in? They need to be kind of that advisor. So I do think the definition of what a great employee is changing. We just haven't seen it. We're on the upswing of that curve. But I think in 2026, probably Q3, Q4, we're going to we're going to be accelerating pretty quickly, and I'm a little anxious to see what the numbers are. And you brought up the whole, is AI taking the job? Is it not? I just did a piece on a new bill that's out, up for vote, that it's called the AI Jobs Clarity Act. And what it's going to do is it's actually going to require companies to do quarterly reports that show how many jobs were eliminated because of AI. So there's like actually statutes and regulations around it. How many jobs were added because of AI, and then how many employees in the organization have been retrained. So whenever I posted it yesterday, someone's like, oh, you're doing hyperbole. And I'm like, look, is it perfect? No, but it's better than right now. We just look at 1.1 million jobs, and the natural thing is AI is taking 1.1 million jobs. You and I both know that's not true.
Yeah.
And how easy is it to hide a corporate restructure to benefit the shareholder and blame it on AI?
Yeah, it's a scapegoat. But I want to go back to something really important you said about the evolution of what a good employee looks like. And for years before AI, I say to anybody in the job search, you need to make yourself invaluable.
Right.
And what does that really mean? Like, unpacking that word invaluable, it's how do you make yourself invaluable in the workplace where they need you? And that comes with understanding your role, how it might be evolving, and how to bring new ideas to the table. If it's AI technology, if it's machine learning, whatever it is, you be that champion. You be that tip of the spear of understanding the tech, understanding how it can be implemented in your organization, what changes it can make, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, and make yourself that resource where the higher ups are looking down saying, you know what? Trent really knows what the hell he's talking about here. He is adding value to his day-to-day role. And, it goes back to the job hugging piece you're saying before. I think that's a big part of it. You have to be a hugger too. Like, you can't put aside the entitlement and all those things. No one's entitled to a job, right? No, you're not. We're all at will employees for the most part, unless you're high level, exec with a contract. And you have
those are few and far.
You have to perform. You have to do your job. Someone's paying you. You do your job.
And there needs to be
why does employers have to be enemies? I hate that dynamic.
I do too.
Let's move away from that.
And bring the passion back.
Please.
If you let's not talk about the current job market, because I get, and I have been there twice, where it's like, I just need a job to be able to put food on the table, something that'll get me through. That's fine. I've been there. But for the bulk of my career, I have always judged my engagement is when my feet hit the floor. Am I excited about the work? Maybe it's stressful, maybe it's exciting and exhausting, but am I passionate about what I'm doing? And whenever that passion wanes, that's usually whenever I kind of raise my antenna and go, it's time to go. Because I don't fake well. My grandmother says that my face comes with subtitles. So, I can't hide it. So if my passion is down, then I owe it to myself, and I also owe it to my company to find something that I am passionate about.
Yeah. My wife always says I do not have a poker face.
Oh, I don't either.
Well, I also say maybe not having a poker face is my poker face. I spin that back on her too, right? She's like, you're a terrible liar. I go, am I?
Yeah.
Right? Am I? Do you really know that? But passion's a double-edged sword, Trent, right? Because there's certain levels of that too. Because passion is it's not something you could put a number on. It's not quantifiable, right? It's qualitative, right? It's qualitative, and everyone's different from that too. And that leads to oh, I'm not passionate. I'm going to find a new job. I'm leaving this one. Don't quit. There's some bad advice out there. It's if you don't love your job, quit. No, that's job hugging. Right now in this economy, you got to take care of yourself, your family.
Absolutely.
You got to pay the bills. And do you have to be 100% passionate about it? No, but if you're happy when you wake up in the morning, you can put food on the table for right now, and explore those other things on the side that make you happy outside of work.
True. Oh, that's a great point. And I think if anyone has the vantage point, you do, about where passion in life really should come from. So, and we're gonna dig into that. I do want to bring up another article. This is from the HR Executive, and it actually has some new research from Gartner and others that reveals that AI's ROI is a problem. That there is, let's see, an enthusiasm gap. Let's see, a Gartner survey said that 65% of employees are excited about using AI at work, and 77% are taking training when offered, but only 62% of them actually report some type of time savings. And there's another article out there about the percent, it's an incredibly high percentage of failure rate of AI projects that were implemented last year. So, I mean, you and I both are AI enthusiasts, and I think we come at it from different angles. What are you seeing?
Well, I think also we got to slow down for a minute here, and this is obviously the shiny object, and obviously the proliferation of communication with social media. Everything moves faster right now.
Right.
But if you hit the rewind button, us as recruiters, we went from paper resumes to the ATS systems, to digital filing cabinets. People went from long form math to calculators. This is an evolution of technology, and we are in the first step out of the first inning here, folks. Regardless of what you're doing, it's adoption right now. We're figuring things out there. I also think a lot of companies are suffering from the shiny object syndrome. Right? These things are getting waved in front of their faces. These executives are getting mandates from that. We need to adopt AI. We need to figure it out. And then, how do you cascade that down to the company? It's like, okay, cool. We're going to spend this money. We're going to invest in this Ferrari. We're going to put this Ferrari in the lobby. But guess what? No one in the company knows how to drive it. No one knows how to drive stick shift. We don't know how to park it. We don't know how to take care of this thing.
But
we
it's
don't
pretty.
But it looks nice, and we have it. Right. And then the other thing they're doing is they're slapping this AI technology onto legacy systems and processes that weren't built for it, specifically if you want to dial into, the recruiting flow.
Oh, and go one step back and not making sure that one, the data is connected, and two, that the data is clean, and then pointing an AI and going, it gave us the wrong answer. It can only give you an answer from the data, from the knowledge base that you create, unless you give it access to other things. But in most organizations, they want to lock it down, and then they go, see, the AI doesn't work. It's not as good as a human. Well, no, the data is not good.
You didn't connect it right. The AI isn't going to connect itself. You still have to plug in the robot.
Right.
So, unless they're nuclear power ones, which is a whole other conversation, but you still have to have the human element to it.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, I always say about the technology, if you could utilize the tech to make yourself more efficient, to do more of the human thinking parts, then you're using it well. At a very, very high philosophical level, I truly believe that for the vast, vast majority of people, AI is going to dumb us down because they don't know how to use it, and they're using it as a crutch and not a tool. And that is a core difference right there. They're taking everything as gospel. They're not using critical thinking. They're not questioning. They're taking everything as gospel. And you need to be extremely mindful about it. For example, I've been using the AI a bit to analyze some of my health reports coming into, and I'm very mindful about taking it with a grain of salt because it's pulling in data that's not always exact, or, it's not a doctor on the other side, but I use it as directional. I use it as, okay, here's the information. What questions should I be asking my doctor's follow-ups? That's how you use it smarter too. I don't say, oh, look at this report. Am I still okay? No. You can't be doing that. You have to say, okay, based on this report, what questions should I be asking my doctor? Right. And it's the same thing with recruiting too. Like, yes, it could automate a lot of the, I think when it comes to recruiting, I think the real, going back to Charney's piece too, with the investment, is it really working?
Right.
What is it doing? And I could speak specifically as a in the trenches recruiter that I'm kicking the tires on a number of tools that while I was going through treatment and I was only able to work, 50, 60% of my capacity, these tools really helped me. But I had to optimize them. I had to dial in. I had to put in the work to make them work better for me. But a lot of people don't. They set it and forget it. Like, agentic AI with sourcing and outreach. No, me as a recruiter, for my specific roles, I need to review every single background before I try to engage from a recruitment perspective. There are nuances. There are subtleties in there. I can't leave that to a robot.
Yeah, we're not at the point where you can actually truly create a digital twin.
For some low, maybe for like a mass type of low mid-level role, potentially, generally speaking, like more of a catch-all.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about like in general.
In life,
Yeah. Because both of us put out a lot of content. I love to write. It's very cathartic for me. But I don't use. I like Perplexity just because of the research, and it cites where it got the information, so I can go and check it and say, okay, this is not a source that I trust.
It's not.
Right, it's not a source. But what I do like to do is I like to have it as a partner. Of going, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Help me flesh this out. All right, where's some research that supports what we're talking about? Now give me some counter research on it.
Mhm.
And it's helping me kind of walk through and think through to
Smart.
build out that content. And a lot of times, what I do though is I will take my finished product and put it in there and go, all right, I want good readability. And I have a couple of articles. I like the way that it's written and it's,
Style, tone guide.
yeah, style, tone, all of that. And say, okay, now take the mind dump that I just did and help me reframe this into a way that a reader could understand it and read it. And it makes it a lot easier. That's, I think, kind of what you were talking about is using the tool correctly rather than going, here's a topic, write the thing for me. Because anyone that's watched or read my content, I have a certain voice. And you'll find this funny. I forgot. October was a blur. There were so many conferences, but I actually had someone come up and they say, I've followed your content for years, which is always incredibly humbling. And she goes, I just want to make sure, are like, you okay? I was like, yeah, why? And she said, we don't cuss as much in your content. I was like, well, that's because I have a different job and I have to be very cognizant. But I'm like, and I'm a little concerned that that's part of my brand. But, I do think that, when you use AI as a partner, as a research agent, as something that you can kind of ideate on, but not to let do the work, I think it does make you smarter. But if you do the reverse, I agree, it's going to make you dumber.
I just think too many people out there are, and I've seen it firsthand, are just taking whatever they put in it as gospel, and that's what scares me. That it's further dumbing us down, and removing the critical thinking, personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even going to touch the influencers that are so obviously posting. I'm like, I talk to you. I know your vernacular. I know your grammar. I know your word choice. That's AI.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of go, all right, let me just kind of move on.
And listen, I've experimented before. I use it all the time too. I use it to give me like frameworks and ideas, but then I have to infuse my own language.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Because if
hard,
not, then those of us that know you would clock you.
right? And you know what? And there's also some things where I'm like, and early on when I was doing it, I'm like, yeah, I'm experimenting. Of course, I used AI on that because I need to try these tools out, and I want to see if it works or if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm an open book, right? Like I tell you what you got to practice what you preach. And I
Agreed.
don't shit on people for using AI for certain things, but it really depends how you use it, and are you really owning the words that are coming out? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you honestly put your name behind that?
Right.
That's what I question.
Yeah. Well, there was an interesting MIT study that actually came out that's sticking with kind of the impacts of AI on the workforce. It estimated that 11.6% of jobs could already be automated by AI, and some employers are actually eliminating that entry level. What are you seeing in the market? Because I I agree with the 11% could be automated. I
It's
think
a
I
scary
I
number.
kind of go, should
Number.
it?
It's scary if you're young, new to the workplace. It's a
Mhm.
scary time right now. There's what I'm seeing, and I saw this years ago before AI, is job consolidation, and specifically, if I want to give an example, in the advertising agency landscape,
Okay.
there are account managers, account executives that manage the client relationship, and then there were strategists. We saw in the last 10 years this combination where the account folks have to be the strategists,
Hmm.
right? And it really makes sense from two perspectives. One, you're combining two jobs into one, and why shouldn't your account person be a strategic advisor? I'm not just a relationship manager, but I'm also a
Right.
strategic advisor to the business.
Mhm.
And if you kind of extrapolate that and think now we're talking with, AI and everything too, it's like how did these jobs evolve? How could they combine? And it is really scary at the entry levels with those roles. So where does the work fall to? The mid-level roles? Like
Mm.
I just don't understand. Like, are the mid-level folks managing the robots at the entry level? Like, you still need to have the worker bees in an organization. How much of it could you truly automate, and who's managing that?
Mm.
And then
And
and then
who's
what
gonna
happens
replace that middle layer?
exactly. I was right about to get to that. Like, once those folks, move up in tenure or retire or move on, there's going to be a huge gap. And then what do we
Mhm.
do with all these young folks out there? That's why they're all trying to be TikTok famous G5, creators out there. They look at the Jake and Logan Pauls of the world, and they're a terrible example
Right.
because that's
Yeah.
only a top 1% that make that kind of money.
Mhm.
You can't just be a TikToker. Your job can't be a TikToker or OnlyFans. Even if you look at something like OnlyFans, right? Like it's only in the top percent that are really killing it too. If you're looking at them as creators, which they are,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the optics are just terrible right now. And I try to teach this to my kids too. I go, don't. These are optics. These aren't real human beings.
Right. Right. This is not real life. And I mean, it's funny. I actually dated an influencer for a hot minute. I can't say who it is because I had to sign an NDA. But on camera, their life looks wonderful and glamorous, but it is not. Like they are probably some of the most lonely people and insecure people that you'll ever meet. But once that camera comes on, they're a persona, and I get it. But I do agree that looking at how the work is going to be done, and Madeline Loriano and I talked about it on the HR Morning Show. You can't determine the value of a tool like AI unless you understand where the work actually is, because the work determines the value. And I think right now we're focused so much on the value, but we're not actually outlining the work. And unfortunately, the workers are the ones that are suffering the consequence right now.
Yeah, and I really feel for these, and I have a lot of. It's really interesting, and it kind of dates me a little bit. I have folks that I worked for early on in my career that have been reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, Adam, my daughter is graduating college right now." And I remember their kids being born. Like,
Right.
I've been in the workforce for 25 years. It's crazy. Like, these are my early bosses, and they're like, could you help my daughter with her resume? What's going on in the entry level market? And I'm like, first of all, no one hires recruiters for entry level roles. That's as an applying type situation there. But I feel for them. These kids have incredible backgrounds, and they can't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if they find something, it's not a sustainable income. They can't live in New York City. I mean, I remember moving to New York City, making $28,000 a year, right? Living with two other guys, right? Like that, uh, these things aren't sustainable anymore.
Yeah.
It's scary place.
It is. I do want to shift back because we're talking about the work, and we touched on this a little bit earlier. I actually had the honor, the privilege of sitting in at RecFest in your opening keynote, and you kind of sharing where you've been through, and I always had mad respect for you, but to go on stage and to be that vulnerable and also turn it around and be that not just commanding but also encouraging and kind of challenging the audience, really, where should your passion and where's the real ROI in life? Can you just kind of walk the audience through what you went through? And I know you share some lessons and things like that, but it's different reading it than actually hearing it from
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you. I needed to do that keynote at RecFest. I needed to share my story with everybody, and just to bring everyone up to speed. In the last 2 years of my life, actually, we'll call it 2.5 years. Long story short, lost my brother-in-law a couple of years ago. He had a massive heart attack, and that was kind of the impetus for me to get myself checked out. And turned 45, went to the cardiologist, and they did a scan, and they found a mass, and went through a number of different biopsies. They couldn't determine what it was, and eventually I had a pretty major surgery, and I was diagnosed for Hodgkin's lymphoma. Started chemotherapy in March of 2025. Went through that for the last 7 months, and finished in September. Got my clean bill of health. Well, knock on wood, mostly in October. And I kept my journey off of social media intentionally. Obviously sharing with friends and family and close, folks like yourself too, who knew I was going through there. But I had to keep my business going. I work for myself. I'm an independent operator. If I only eat what I kill, and if I don't kill, we're not eating.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky and I'm blessed that my wife has a good, stable job as an attorney and does all that. But like, I have to provide also. And it was a really tough balance for me to figure out, how do I keep my foot on the gas and also make sure I'm giving myself the time and space to recover and recharge and go through treatment and everything. So I really wanted to share that journey with the audience and show also what I went through, how I went through it, but also how I continued to recruit, and how I mentioned before how I started to lean into the technology to make myself more efficient. How do I still deliver for my clients? How do I still move the needle? How do I still record the show? And it's crazy. Like, I really thought hard about it, because I record on video like we do now with Riverside, and I looked a lot different. I had no eyebrows, no hair, no facial hair. Like, I was an alien, and it was really hard for me. I really thought long and hard about pausing the show during the treatment, But then I thought, you know what? My whole thing is me being me, and I hate the buzzword authenticity, but I show up as who I am. And that was a time capsule. My entire podcast has been a time capsule the last 7 years of my life. And why not document it? And why not share it? But what I really wanted to show folks on stage is how you can push through, and how we really need to just have empathy, because everyone's going through shit in their life.
Yes.
Like, we all are really going through things. And us as recruiters, it goes back to a post I did the other day too about job gaps. I like understand, but don't judge. Right? Be understanding. So when we ask questions about, okay, explain to me what happened between these two jobs. I just want to get an understanding of what happened there. Right? What was this, career gap? And like, if I see medical, personal, family, that's it. I'm not digging in any deeper because I get it. Stuff that we have to keep personal. But that keynote for me was to really, first and foremost, honor my brother-in-law. Like, talk about his legacy, how he motivated me, how, he made me proud. And really just give back to our community and share the lessons around honoring your own time, your own energy, your own personal space, how to really value time with your family, what's important. Like, during that process, I did a complete inventory check of what's important to me in life. And I think I needed that. I needed a pause, and it was a tough pill to swallow, why I had to do it, but really evaluate what really matters. What am I saying yes to? What should I be saying no to? What we were talking about earlier. And that was it. And it was funny because another event was like, we were talking about a keynote, and they're like, "Oh, can you do that same similar again?" I'm like, no, that was a one and done.
Yeah.
That is not that's a one off. I have more things to talk about. But what I did learn from there's pieces from there, as you talked about, there's learnings that I could bring to another presentation, another keynote. There's how to utilize technology, how to employ more empathy the right way. But the other piece too is us as recruiters in the trenches, we're in the no business. I say no 90% of the time, one way or another. No, we're not moving forward in an interview. No, we're not interested in you. No, you didn't get the job. No. And that takes a toll on you, being in the business. And people don't understand that we have to also protect our own mental health and well-being as recruiters. So that was another key piece I wanted to share as well too, is like, how do you mind your own mental, physical health as a recruiter?
And I like, something that you said that I don't think, I know I'm guilty of this. You don't just kind of stop and go, where am I? Where should I be? What am I focused on? What should I be focused on? And just like doing that inventory. And it doesn't take long, but it does kind of shift where your focus should be, where your passion should be. So thank you for sharing that again. It's
I'm happy to link it up also. Anybody who's listening to this, it's my YouTube page. The keynote's there. You could take a look. You could take a look at it. It's all there.
Yeah. I appreciate it. It's kind of something that I shared as a 2026 goal is to try to be vulnerable, but not in the Instagrammy way on LinkedIn, but just like you did. Here's what I went through. Here's what it taught me. And then here's kind of a lesson, it helped me really figure out, okay, AI needs to help me because whenever I can't be on the gas, it can be on it for me. Being a little bit more vulnerable and not just the research kind of content data guy. But in order to do that, people don't understand how much that takes, not just to get on stage and be vulnerable, but also coming off of it.
It was heavy. It was very cathartic. I thought about that keynote, and this is something so that keynote came to me in my sleep about 2 months before Wreckfest. The whole premise of it, how I was going to set it up, and I literally jumped out of bed. It was like 3 a.m, and I literally have it here in my notes section. I went in and I dictated the whole idea into my phone so I didn't forget it. And then the next day, I went in to my GPT, and I have a custom GPT that ingests all my content. It has everything, and it knows my tone. It knows who I am. Right. And I prompted it to give me the layout and the outline of this. And then I worked it, and I worked it, and I worked it. And I couldn't stop thinking about this keynote it was every day in my head.
Mm.
And when I went up there, I with the intention of there was only one slide with a lot of words on it. Everything else was just a date or a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew the story. And that's a big thing with speaking too, is you don't want to read verbatim off of PowerPoints, and don't make it an eye chart up there.
Please don't.
You don't have to memorize your speeches. You don't have to memorize your keynotes. Know your story, know your narrative, and speak from the heart. But you know this material so well that you could go up there and just talk about it and just be prompted to move to the next slides. And that presentation really invigorated me. And it also was kind of like, all right, this chapter, yes, it's a chapter and it's part of my story, but I'm going to close that chapter and it's time to move on.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I don't think people do that enough too. I think people dwell on the past. I've been guilty of it. I held I got fired by Gary V banner for 7-8 years when I was doing that. And I decided a few years ago, I'm closing that chapter. I'm moving on. That was a season. That was a time of my life. Right. That's not who I am. No. Being fired didn't define me. Same thing everyone out there too. Being fired didn't define you, and don't let it. No. Change that narrative. Shit happens. Own your story.
My grandmother, because I had a tendency to kind of dwell on the past, and I'm a Cancer sign, so not only do I dwell on it, but I can go back to that moment and feel the emotion just like I did in that emotion years later. And I remember I was over rotating on something that happened years ago, and she said, "Son, at what point are you going to stop driving the car looking in your rearview mirror?" I was like, and that's what I loved about my grandmother. She would drop these little quotes, and she was one of the few people that could shut me up, because I would just go, wait, I got to sit with that for a second, But I love that. I love that you're like, hey, this is a chapter. I'll tell the story, but it's not going to kind of be the narrative going forward.
I think too many people spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror instead of looking forward. It's going to hurt your neck. It's going. And of course, I've been guilty of that a long time. Like, you can't change the past, but you can change the future. Right. And that's a maturity. That's a life thing. I think we all grow that way too. And I really think the other big takeaway for me was presence. And so many of us are guilty of us with not being present. And it's because of these things. It's because of these phones. It's because we've been conditioned to respond to every buzz, every email, every ding that comes through there. And we need to put the phones down. We need to be present. We need to be able to shut off when we're off.
Yeah.
And get back to what's important, because before you know it, you blink and your kids are older. Kids are off to college. My daughter's 13 and she's going to high school next year, which is mind blowing to me. And I'm like, I get these memories. You look at Facebook, and Facebook brings these memories. I'm looking at my 1.5-year-old, delicious, cute, fat little daughter. And now I look at her now, and she's this sassy ass teenager that gave me shit today about wearing her jacket when it's 30 degrees out. And I'm like, before I know it, I'm going to blink and she's going to be out of the house. Mm-hmm. So and I'm not trying to get like emotional with everyone here, but like, just take that moment to pause. And that's what we did on this vacation we're on. And I know that it was going to be more than just a trip. It was those 2 full weeks with us together. And like, you're not going to get that time back. Nope. And it was worth every penny, every single penny. Take that trip, buy that ticket, go for that dinner, go on that date, say yes to things, right? Like, because you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm on the other side of, the child. So my daughter is 22 and she's doing her master's in civil engineering. Yeah, I am old. But just to get those memories and go, God, I can remember that like it was yesterday. And then to see like she is, about to be off my payroll, fully functioning adult. But I mean, she's very independent. I'm truly blessed. Very independent. A lot of times I'm the one that's like, sweetheart, do you need money? It's like, well, I mean, if you have some, it'd be great. I'm like, well, of course, I'll pay for anything that you need. It's the wants that I want you to pay for. But, well, Adam, where can people connect? Because I know you've got a phenomenal podcast. I know it's one of my go-tos in the gym, but give us a skinny. Where can people find and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the podcasting side, it's at thepodcast.com. I'm not the one and only. There's a few other shows out there, but I'm leading the SEO search on that one. So I'm very proud. I've organically too, which is awesome. Please check that out. I have some incredible guests, names that you know, names that you don't know. I find so many treasures in really highlighting folks that are not name brands. Mm-hmm. And unpacking their life story told through the lens of their career. And that's what I do on the podcast. For all recruiting things, you can check out NHP Talent Group right up there. Those are my daughter's initials, Nina Harrison Posner, named the company after her. My 7-year-old son is starting to ask questions why there's no company named after him. I'm like, sorry, dude.
You need to open up a side gig.
There's enough gigs opened up over here, believe me. And please follow me on LinkedIn at Adam J. Posner, because if you go to Adam Posner, you're going to connect with my friend Adam Posner down in Australia, who is awesome, by the way, which is a whole funny story for another time. We've actually built a relationship over the years of sharing. We check in with each other every New Year's. I always say, Adam Posner of the future, what is 2026 having for this Adam Posner? Because I'm still in 2025. And it's just that's the power of LinkedIn. It's fun, use it with people from around the world. It's like your digital pen pals, right?
Yep. Love it. Well, and it's brought, for me, it's brought some really, really cool people into my life that I've learned from, that also hold me accountable. And I don't know which one I'm more thankful for.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thankful for you, and
well.
Always, you're a voice that comes from the truth, from data, from life experiences, and you call it how it is, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate that. And thank you for coming on, Adam.
Thanks.